I'm Mickey Maher, SVP of Revenue from Upside. Quickly, Upside is a user lifecycle management platform from user attribution to analytics, analyzing what users are doing in your game or app, marketing tools to take direct action on that data that you're seeing, and then some ad hoc BI inquiring tools to dive a little bit deeper into that data. So what we're talking about today is proactive listening, how to actually turn data into action, right? So data's not a new thing. Data's been around forever, but it's a new thing in this field. There's new uses of data. So, there are people out there that still really don't, understand data or how to use data. So I hope there's no one as ignorant as this person in the audience, but I'm going to be talking, about how to just leverage data from the ground up and what you should be doing with the data that you're seeing. So, without further ado, so as I said, data has been around forever. The way we use data and our ability to use data has changed over time. So, typically, product organizations utilize data in a way they collect it, they analyze it, they report the findings, they develop the product, they launch a prototype, get feedback, then feed that back into their system, and it's a very slow moving process. But with mobile and digital and the tools that are out there today, use of data looks more like this. You analyze it, you grab the data, any data that you want, you analyze it, and then you take direct action, and then you iterate on that and continue to iterate on that and continue to close the loop almost in real time. So we have the ability now to gather real-time data and take action on it immediately. So data's been around forever. Scientists, doctors, everyone uses data, but the quickness in our ability to leverage data today is way more powerful than it ever has been. So we like at Upside, and I think in this space, we like to think of data as a conversation. Data should help you leverage a conversation with your user base. It should allow you to talk to your user base or individual user groups directly. So when I think about this term, data as a conversation, this is kind of what I see. But data as a conversation should be knowing your users and being a source of value to your users. So a couple quick examples of this and how companies have done this effectively over the last few years, leveraging mobile. So maybe, in the US, everyone knows the story of Dominos Pizza, but maybe in Europe, they don't know it as much. So Dominos Pizza, 5-6 years ago, they were dead. They were behind all their competitors. They were losing market share. They didn't know what to do. And then mobile came about, and they launched this killer mobile app. And the mobile app was a great user experience. They leveraged the data that they were seeing. The customers were speaking to them, and they were speaking back, leveraging data. And over the course of the last 5 years, this mobile initiative helped Domino's increase their stock price almost 2,000%. And they went from almost a dead company to the leader in their space, which is cheap fast food type pizza. Another company that does this well is Netflix in the US. Their ability to leverage data to build a substantial business allows us to coin the term Netflix and chill. I don't know if that's something that's said in Europe, but if Netflix didn't exist and they weren't leveraging data as effectively as they are, there would be no term Netflix and chill, and we'd all be pretty sad. And then finally, in our space, we all know Supercell. Supercell was one of the pioneers of this type of behavior. They're measuring data actively and taking direct action on that data all the time, and that's how they've part of their secret to their success and part of why everyone in this room probably knows them and respects them. So there's a quote from one of their services leads that we collect data because our games don't stay in the top 10 list automatically, which is true. You got to continue to iterate. Success has to be earned by listening to the community and balancing the game to make it fair for everyone. So they're listening and taking action daily, hourly, et cetera, because they have the ability to do that. So I'm talking a lot in generalities. Let's talk about, from a gaming perspective, how how do we do this? How do we listen to our audience, and how do we effectively implement and execute on what we're hearing? So the first step is to know your users. Great. So what does knowing your users mean? So knowing your users is, why do they actually play the game? And the answer isn't that it's fun, right? Everyone has their own reasons for playing the game. Some people play it for power, some people play it for prestige, some people like to achieve, some people do it to waste time. So measuring your users' behavior in-game and what they're interacting with should give you a sense of why they're playing the game. So know why. So some of the aesthetics that we're talking about, power, are they playing P2P battles? Does that make them feel good? Expression, are they doing creative things? Are they building, are they doing anything that you allow for creativity in the game? Achievement, are they leveling up, hitting goals, stuff like that? Fellowship, are they joining a clan? Are they interacting with other players? Are they being social? So those are some of the types of aesthetics that you would look for. What are your users interacting with? But then what are the channels and how are they actually engaging in those aesthetics? So how do they access the dynamics of the game? So look at their habits. Are they an advanced decorator? Are they a big spender? Do they watch a lot of ads? Do they play a lot? Do they come back every day, multiple times a day? Do they donate to troops? Are they helpers? Are they helping other people? So how are your users, what things in the game are your users actually engaging with to create whatever they deem as fun in the game? And then when you take a look at a game design, now you know your users, now you know how they're accessing what they like in the game. So how do I continue to build on top of that to allow these segments of users to nurture what they like about their game? So how do I build on top and build additional mechanics to drive either spending and or engagement? So, do I, based on what my users are doing, I mean, these are some of the things that I could add to my mechanics or iterate on to increase users' habits and show that I'm listening to my users and what they want and what they need. So iterate on your mechanics, continue to build new mechanics in the game to support what your users are telling you. So this is an example of how you correlate data. So I'll go through this really quickly, but if you have a decorator, so you could define a decorator as the top 10 in total vanity items purchased, top 10 in discrete base design, if they're a harvester, average daily resource collections, total troop donations made. So these are some of the metrics you should look at to help define what categories you put your users in. And frequent troop donor would be obviously something like lifetime troops donated or total troop donations made, right? So that's the data your users are telling you. You're listening to your users. You can put them in categories and then service those categories accordingly. Another thing, obviously, unless you're making substantial money from your free-to-play game or any game, it becomes a hobby. I think game developers always start these businesses out of passion or a hobby, but to sustain it and to be really successful, you have to make money. So another thing you need to listen to is how are individual users, what is their preferred method of paying, right? Are there some users that are your whales that are going to pay a lot? Are some a combination of payers and rewarded video watchers? Are some only grinders? Are some only rewarded video watchers? So you need to pay attention to what your users are interacting with and then surface more of those type of payment methods to those users depending on what they're telling you. So here's some payment options. These are levers that you can listen to and then surface more of these to the certain users that are engaging with them. So now that we know our users and we've defined our users and we've defined what type of people they are and what type of aesthetics they want, what are some of the type of actions that we should be taking against these users now that we've listened to them? So we have these 3 users here, all very different. One's favorite aesthetic is power, one is fellowship, one is expression. The dynamics define what he is, and then all these 3 users have separate preferred payment methods, right? So some like to pay, some just watch ads, but you're monetizing them in that way. So step 2, offer the value. So deliver targeted engagements that promote the certain mechanics and that facilitate the dynamics, that produce their favorite aesthetic. So for user 1, here's his profile. Some things you can do to engage with him is send him a push when his troops are ready, notify via push when the resources are ready for harvesting, or offer an inexpensive IAP, and if rejected, surface an ad. So based on that user's profile and what you know about him in the game, you can take those strategic actions because that's what your user will react best to. And to show you another example, this user is completely different than that first user. So the engagements that you should leverage with this user are completely different. So you want to notify this user via push when friends are online because they're social. You want to deliver promotions for vanity items on a virtual goods store because she is a decorator, right? So she's into vanity and using vanity items to decorate. Or promote discounted mid-tier IAPs and then promote a lower tier if she rejects that because she's told you she's a payer, she's paid in the past, or I've predicted that she will be a payer based on data. So you should, surface IAP stuff to this user versus ads. And then the third user, you should leverage this type of user, leverage in-app notifications to promote community-driven web content because this person is obviously social and likes to join a lot of clans, etc. in your game. So as a social player, so you should notify them when social activities are available. Also notify this person via push when his defense is ready based on his profile, and then based on what he's telling you or his payment profile, promote a discounted IAP, and then if rejected, promote a lower level IP. So he's another payer that you should never surface an ad to. You should only show him IP. So it's just the difference in 3 different distinct types of people in your game and the actions that you should take against that user base based on what you know about that user. So I've gone through how you look at individual users and how you take action on those individual users and what you should be looking for from what users are telling you. I also want to touch on, because we are a data company, we see a lot of game developers doing things wrong just in general. And the data tells us differently than what I would say common knowledge is in the space, right? So there's these common practices that game developers engage in that aren't necessarily right, and it's not backed up by data. So I want to just kind of point out 3 of those and give you some ideas on how to do it differently and better. So, this isn't necessarily a problem, but I just think game developers are missing an opportunity here, right? So most, if not all, game developers integrate some type of crash analytics into the game. So when they soft launch or they alpha launch, they want to know how often my game's crashing, how many crashes am I getting, so I can go and fix the issues that are causing these crashes, right? So that's the purpose of crash analytics. They want to fix the issues. But over time, you fix those issues and the crashes become much, much less. But still, I think any game, you cannot fix the crash problem 100%. You're still going to have crashes. But the point is that you have this data on crashes. So, yay, I have crash data. Like, I fixed the problem, but I'm still using these analytics to show me, when the app is crashing. So what? Like, I have this data. I'm not doing anything with it. An app crashes sometimes. Great. Well, I would say this is a missed opportunity, especially in this environment and ecosystem. You want to talk directly to those users. So if an app crashes, this is a bad user experience. And any brick and mortar business, before digital, there wasn't this opportunity to understand directly what kind of negative experience your user was having or your customer was having, and then take direct action on that. Here, I'm a user, I'm playing the game, the app or the game crashes, so why not send a push notification to those group of users based on a segment of, you create a segment, app crashes, send them a coupon, a discount, a thank you message, and a sorry message via push or via in-app message the next time they come back, just to show them that you care, that you understand what happened. It's a way to re-engage your user and keep them happy, turning that negative experience into a positive. So another common knowledge thing in the gaming space that is definitely wrong is showing rewarded videos to user will cause a negative user experience and will result in faster churn. This is completely false. It's backed up by data. So the common wisdom was flat out wrong. Data tells us offering rewarded video to users actually encourages them to play more. It increases retention. It also increases the percentage of payers in your game. So it tickles their buying bone, so to speak, meaning if users are engaging with rewarded video, it gets them used to currency, it gets them used to having something in their wallet and spending, so that actually, if you set up your economy correctly, it actually encourages IAP spending. So it increases engagement, the data tells us, and it also increases the number of spenders and how much users spend. So the common wisdom of rewarded video is a negative experience is actually completely false. In fact, it's a highly positive experience. And we did a case study with Vector Unit Games, and they integrated rewarded video. They kind of, without data, started to go with that common wisdom and kind of scale back the amount of rewarded video that we're showing. And the number one customer request or customer complaint that they got when they did that was, hey, we need more rewarded video. Offer more rewarded video. So the users love it. The data backs it up. And you should definitely show as much rewarded video as possible, because there's literally, if your economy is set up correctly, no negative aspects and only positive aspects. Third, and finally, another rewarded video anecdote, but I think a lot of game developers, it's getting better now, but the typical integration point of rewarded video was in the store, right? So it would make sense to a game developer. The common wisdom was, I'm going to put my rewarded video right next to my IAPs, because that's where people go to, buy or earn currency, right? So that's the natural thing to do. Well, this is completely wrong. First of all, rewarded video should be surfaced more as a native experience in-game. It makes it more interesting to the user, and it also highly increases revenue and conversion because it's part of the core game loop, and it's also surfacing more impressions. But I think the biggest thing that the data tells us that game developers don't realize is when your user clicks to go into your store, there is something called intent. And when they're clicking to go into your store, their intent is to actually potentially buy something. They're shopping. So the last thing you want to do is confuse that intent with offering them something for free right next to something that they should be purchasing, right? So you're actually, by putting rewarded video in the store, killing your ARPDAU because you're confusing potential payers, and some users that went with the intent to buy will then go to rewarded video instead of buying, and it's just a very confusing experience. So the data shows us do not put rewarded video placements in your store next to IAP purchases. So I think based on those three common wisdoms being false, I am sure there is many others out there that we have yet to uncover. I think because data is so readily available, there's so many tools out there that you can allows you to read the data and act on it. So definitely do not guess. Measure everything, test everything. You let the data tell you what your users want and what you should be doing. Don't use your common wisdom or common knowledge, because it could very well be wrong, as I've shown in the 3 points that I just laid out. So thank you, appreciate it. I think we have time for questions, about 5 minutes. So I know there's not a lot of you, so.
Well, I'll start with a question. One of the presentations earlier, they talked about advertising, the videos in there. And one of the piece of advice they gave is that rather than sort of you watching a video and then allowing that to convert into in-game currency, so well, don't give you currency at all, just sort of use it as an advantage. So you finish a level and you get a certain number of points. But if you watch this video, I'll give you twice as many points. And it's an incentive to watch the video that it wasn't related to converting into in game currency, but something embedded in the game. Do you have any data about how that works compared to converting it to in-game currency?
Oh, it's definitely our recommended integration, and I didn't talk about it specifically, but when I talk about it being a native experience in the core game loop, that's exactly what you should be doing. And the more core it is to the game, the better revenue you're going to see, right? So doubling points, let you continuing a level, speeding it, like if you have a farm game, speeding up the time that, you plant a crop, it takes 12 hours, or watch this video and have it, planted immediately. Stuff like that. If it's part of your core game loop, the more users are going to like it and the more revenue you're going to do. So that's absolutely true.
What about games when you play? A lot of time I play games on the plane where I might have an internet connection. What are the can you do to sort of buffer that or take that into account if I'm not connected at the time I'm playing the game?
Well, most video providers cache videos, so if you initialize the game no connection, you should be able to still play it because it's local to the device for a certain amount of time.
You want to share some some hardcore data with us in terms of revenue per thousand you can expect for in-game advertising? What figures are there out there that you can expect these days?
Well, I think if you're doing it, so I don't like to talk in terms of eCPM when I talk about in-game advertising. It's misleading. You should look at in-game advertising like you look at IAP and just back it out to ARPDAU.
Okay.
I think very effective integrations, you could see upwards 10, 15 cents ARPDAU just from ads.
Okay.
You talked a lot about multiplayer games like Clash of Clans or whatever, these kinds of games. How would you do it with a single player game where you have just yourself, play your game? Would you make it like that you can play at a certain time and have then this reward video, or how would you make it?
How would I make like the game? How would I design the game? Or I mean, I think I just focused on a PvP game here because limited time. You could focus on all types of different genres. I think again, the point I would make to you would be, you're going to make a puzzle game, right? But you have to look at what your audience is telling you with the data to understand where the engagement is, what they're interacting with, what people are really enjoying in the game, and then build off of those principles, right? So this is a PvP, mid-core type game. All types of other games have all types of other aesthetics that matter to users. It's just you have to look at the data, actually, and don't guess. Look at the data and look at what it's telling you, where it's leading you, and then iterate based on what your users are telling you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Again, it's this common wisdom we produce games that they're not charities, so somebody has to pay for the games, and we're always told that somehow you pay in some way, either with your time or through in-game purchases. Common wisdom is that if you're a hyper spender, you continuously buy things from the store. You shouldn't display video adverts to them because it's going to disrupt things that are going on. And only when you've passed up the threshold, hey, you're a cheapskate, you're not only doing any app purchases, then we'll monetize you through advertising. Does data back that up, or should you show videos to everybody?
You should show videos to everyone. You have to understand the mentality. There's the grinders and there's the spenders. It's sweat equity versus real equity. The spenders aren't going to waste their time. They spend because they don't have a lot of time, and they spend to progress in the game faster. So watching rewarded video for a spender is time commitment that they don't necessarily have. And because they're spending anyway, what they're going to get out of this sweat equity of watching videos isn't nearly, it's going to take way too much time, and they're going to eventually just spend anyway because they don't want to waste their time. So showing rewarded videos to a spender, the spender has got a completely different mentality, so the data shows it's just incremental revenue. There's no cannibalization whatsoever.
Yeah. Again, round of applause for both for our speaker and for yourselves for staying right to the end of the show. So thank you very much.